Hi, ladies. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sing or Cimnanya, and thank you all so much for all the love and support. Hope you all are doing great. This video is really an interesting one. It's not like Black people have not been saying all this or Black people did not know it. This is something you all have been screaming all this while and all that. But sometimes it's okay if it comes from them because it looks like when they speak to themselves, they actually listen. Because when we speak, they don't listen. And then in the end, they will say Black people said that, but we never listen, right? So this one was talking about white privilege, and he went like further to explain how privileged they are, how their privilege is overflowing, that they know that they have a lot of privilege, but they choose to lie about their privilege and all that, and tell you that we do not have any privilege. Absolutely, you all already know that they are lying. And he went further to say that being a white person is where no matter how poor you are, you probably may not be worried about what you are going to eat the next day and all that. You cannot be discriminated because of your skin color and all that because you are already immune. This white privilege is also being, them saying race disease joke with impunity, and also because they thought it's funny because um that when you tell them that you don't like it, you are being oversensitive and you are being childish when they can't even take a joke. Let's get into this video.
People ask me all the time, Danny, what is white privilege? What does white privilege mean to you? And I will tell you how it shows up in my life. White privilege was growing up in a family and in a household in which, although we were poor, we still did not have to worry about our lights being turned off, if there was going to be food on the table, or if we were going to be discriminated against for nothing other than the color of our skin. White privilege was being able to grow up as a kid and say racist jokes with impunity because we thought it was funny, and if you didn't like it, stop being so sensitive or stop being the victim. White privilege for me was growing up in a small town called Fort Pierce, Florida, in which the largely predominantly black neighborhoods were boxed in by 4 major roads. White privilege for me was going to high school in that same town, in which that high school was over 50% black population, yet there were still white students who would wear Dixie Outfitter shirts to school every day that said, if the South would have won, we would all had it made. They wore these shirts with impunity. That's white privilege. White privilege was walking out to the student parking lot of that high school and seeing a bunch of jacked up trucks, Fords and Chevys, with rifles hanging in the back window of those trucks without any consequence. White privilege for me was being arrested nearly a dozen times before I was ever sent to prison because they wanted to protect my baseball career. White privilege for me was having a family that was able to hire a paid attorney to fight every single one of those said cases. White privilege was being able to fire one of those paid attorneys so I could stall my case and then hire a public defender because I knew the head public defender of the whole judicial circuit for that community and knew that she had the power and the ability to be able to work a deal. Then white privilege was getting the deal for 7 years from the public defender's office when the paid attorney was getting 15 years, and then telling the public defender that that wasn't enough, that I'm not like those people. It's not like I'm out there selling drugs and being a criminal every day because I went to college and I played professional baseball. White privilege is walking through life, blowing every single one of those opportunities that other people would die for, then having the audacity to say you're not like them. White privilege for me was going to prison and home twice on 14 felonies before your best friend goes home on 1 felony that he was sentenced to 20 years as a 16-year-old juvenile. White privilege is being able to build a platform even after having those 14 felonies and doing 10 years in the Florida Department of Corrections, a platform that's able to reach millions of people all across the globe. White privilege is recognizing that the majority of prison TikTok creators look just like you, despite the fact the majority of people who are impacted by our criminal justice system, mass incarceration, and the prison industrial complex are black and brown. White privilege is being afforded the ability to walk through this life racist, xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, misogynistic, and not even realize that you're any of the above. White privilege is telling a person to just comply when that person has no idea whether or not they're going to lose their life in that moment. White privilege is telling people to build that wall to keep the immigrants out when we're all immigrants ourselves. White privilege is telling them to impose that Muslim travel ban to keep all those terrorists out when some of the biggest terrorists in this country are domestic Christian nationalists. White privilege is being able to coin terms like black on black crime. Meanwhile, the majority of crime committed in this country is by white people against white people. White privilege is having 34 felony convictions and being able to walk the streets, but not only be able to walk the streets, to be able to campaign for the most prestigious job in all the world when most convicted felons can't even get a job. And lastly, white privilege is recognizing that white privilege doesn't have to have a negative connotation, because sometimes we can't even help that we have that privilege, but we can control how we use that privilege. So choose to use it wisely. This one's going to ruffle some feathers, but this is a real conversation I had. A friend of mine said, Danny, do you really believe that white people are racist? Do you really believe that they are white supremacists? I said, not all, but the vast majority. Unless you're actively doing the work to dismantle the politics of white supremacy, unless you're actively deconstructing and re-educating yourself, you are likely racist. I said, if you are white and born in the United States of America, you are born into a system that by design was created to target, marginalize, and oppress certain demographics of people. I told him my racism wasn't because I hated black people. After all, I had black friends. I played sports with black people. I love rap music. Some of my favorite sports stars were black. How could I be racist? And the truth is, we can conquer interpersonal racism in our personal lives by having black friends, by dating black people, or listening to black music, or loving the culture. But if you're still upholding institutional racism, by default, you're a racist. He said, well, can you elaborate? Can you give me some examples? I said, sure, why not? I said, if you look at George Floyd as being subhuman, a savage, an animal, a predator, barbaric, but you put Donald Trump on a pedestal, chances are you're racist. If you continue to use terms like black on black crime, but don't acknowledge that the majority of the crimes in this nation are by white people against white people, chances are you're racist. If in one breath you tell me that systemic racism doesn't exist, and then when I give you the data and proof, and then you tell me, well, that's Joe Biden's fault in the 94 crime bill, chances are you're racist. If you call undocumented immigrants illegals, if you call Muslims jihadists and terrorists, and you call Palestinians savages and animals, chances are you're racist. I went on to tell him, I said, listen, if I'm calling you a racist or a white supremacist, don't take it personal. I'm not attacking you personally. I'm not attacking your character, at least not initially. I'm attacking your education and your upbringing. But if you choose to remain willfully ignorant after you've been presented with new information and the education, and you just choose to remain stuck in your ways, then I'm attacking your character. Having integrity is being presented with new information and facts, and being willing to say, you know what? I got it wrong. Help me to grow as a human being. I'd venture to say that the majority of white people in this country, they're well-intentioned. They go to work every day, they pay taxes, they take care of their family, they give back to their community, they give to charities. So when they are told that they are racist or a white supremacist, it triggers them. How dare you call me those things? I'm a good person. But if we're not actively doing the work, listening and validating other people's experience, then all of that means absolutely nothing. It becomes superficial. Unity is more than just words. It is action. And unfortunately, the majority of white people do not want to do the work because they're too busy living their lives. And truth be told, that is selfish and self-centered because it keeps us in the center of the narrative, and it's, what about me? What about me? Because then what we're telling the world is that we are the victims, and we're not. So when people try to educate you on the transatlantic slave trade and the harm that it's done and how we're still feeling the residual effects of that, don't say, well, there was slavery everywhere. When people try to educate you on the criminal justice system and the harm that it's done to the black and brown community, don't say things like, just don't commit crime. And when people try to educate you on privilege, don't say, well, I grew up poor too, I had it rough too. And if you're calling the Vice President of the United States of America a DEI hire, check your racism. White America, we have the biggest opportunity of a lifetime to truly unite this country. but we have to be willing to humble ourselves and say, you know what? Our way has not been working. We are willing to listen and try your way. We are truly at an inflection point, and we are not going back. Vice President Kamala Harris for President 2024. Let's go.
So this is all I got from this video. And sincerely speaking, he nailed it. He came correct. You know, there is something that I've been saying here for a longer time, and that still stands at this very moment. The truth is that they know they have privilege, and their privilege is not something that can be taken away from them like in a twinkle of an eye. And they keep denying it. And the fact that each time we talk to them about privilege and we tell them, here are the privileges and all that, and they still deny it and ask us, like, talk to us like we don't know what we're saying. I love it when I see people come out to say the truth. It's not like Black people have not been saying it or Black people do not know it. We know it. We've been saying it. But it looks like they're listening to their brothers or their sisters more than they listen to Black people. Now, let me tell you something. This young man, he was in prison, I can't remember for how many years. And I think he had his aha moment while in prison because he said he used to be like, a great right to the seas and also according to him, this is not coming from me, a Trump supporter, right? And that he had his aha moment while in prison. He met so many Black people, he became friends with them. Then he started learning or getting to know more about Black people and how their life, like, just getting to know more about Black history. And when he finished from the prison, came out, and he was able to have a platform. And sincerely speaking, his platform has really been out there growing, and he also go out to probably schools and all that to speak to them. Now, let me tell you this will never ever happen to someone like me. Probably might happen one out of 100 or out of thousands, right? Because we do not get that opportunity. I mean, we do not have second chance. I don't know if you understand what I am saying. It's either you get it right or you don't get it at all. I mean, there is nothing like being in between. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I have seen some of my people probably go through something like this and come back and never get job. But you all can see, since this man had how many felonies, that is something. He's been waxing stronger. And not just only that, he was given immunity too, that he can still go ahead and become the next president, which is, you all see everything happening right in front of you and the rest of it. And you all already know how police brutality has become a thing when it comes to people like me. Now, let me tell you something. There was a time a video trended on this on Twitter, right? You all probably saw that video because I brought it. So a woman ran, I don't know, I think she ran the red light and she was chased down. She refused to stop. This woman refused to stop till she got home, parked her car, right? And then came down, was actually shouting on the cop, telling the cop to get away. And they were trying to let her know that, I mean, like, they were so calm talking to her. And I was like, oh my goodness, this would not be someone that looked like me, because that would be the end of that person. I mean, that person probably may not live to tell the story. So you all can see the different, it's clear. The stories are different, right? And we are always blamed when something happened to us. People are gonna hurt you. Instead of people asking, why did you hurt me? Right? Why did you hurt this person? They are asking you, what did you do that make this person hurt you? You see the story? It cannot be the same. I don't know if you get what I am saying. You all remember what happened to Sonia? Not just only that, so many of them, right? Sonia was right in her house. She did not move anywhere. She did not go out. She actually called for help, right? What happened? That was the end of Sonia. And before they got into they got into her house, she told them, "Do not hurt me." Right? And what she said eventually ended up happening. People like me cannot. I have seen people like me without any pew pew, without anything, probably being stopped by the cops. And before you know what is going on, hands on the back, without even doing anything. Just being black is being a suspect. Black kids do not get enough time to grow. Why? Because you have to grow fast to beat the system. Because if you think you want to be a child, you might not enjoy your childhood days or something like that. Because tell me how kids will be playing in the park and you see adults calling the cops to find out if they have pew pew or that they saw a mobile phone on the child. Maybe that mobile phone is a pew pew. So you can imagine living in that kind of world, right? They keep saying they are not white disease, they are not white supremacists, they are not this, they are not that. But deep down, they know their privileges, but just that they keep lying about it. And they know quite well that all these privileges are the privileges we do not have. If you have checked around, it is very rare to see woman coming out to speak on what is going on in black community, especially when it comes to police brutality, because that is also one of the major problems that it's happening. Black community is over police, right? You will never, even the ones that got married to black men. Sorry, black men, I am not batching you. Please, I am not. I am trying to express something. Even the ones that married black men, they will never come out to speak on anything happening in black community. This is to tell you how they do not even for a minute want to lose that power, because that power is something that they are holding so close to their heart. I have really seen them asking, what if we lose this power? What do we have next? And they tell you that they do not have any other thing. So just that palm color. I hope this makes sense, but it is what it is. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.